Once again, we're back, and thank you for coming and joining us at the 2025 Truth Summit. It's been an especially great day. I've had a great time here. Of course, I want to say thank you to Varsity. I want to say thank you to MATC, our presenting sponsor, 1MKE, and of course, as I mentioned again, am I mentioning cousin subs too much? Cousin subs. You know what usually happens is when I show up to things like this, I always hope, like, oh, they've got food. I'm talking on the radio. 20 minutes later, no food, and I'm not talking on the radio. So, but what we want you to do is help yourself. We've got some refreshments for you and some food. We want you to be attentive and nourished, because this is one of my favorite topics, as they well know. As we have two who I like to call dynamic African-American, Black, I say phenomenal school superintendents. We've got Dr. Terrence Robinson from the Allis, West Milwaukee School District. You know her well, she's been here before. Dr. Brenda Cassellius, she is the Milwaukee Public School Superintendent. All right, so I'm going to let them introduce themselves, talk about their experience in I guess, higher education as well as public school education. And we'll go from there, starting with Dr. Cassellius. Well, let's start with, she has taken a point of personal privilege and passed it to Dr. Robinson.
All right, so I'm looking at my clock. So good morning, still morning. Good morning. Well, we can do better than that. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Terrence Robinson. I am the proud superintendent of the West Allis, West Milwaukee School District. I am a native of Houston, Texas. So pardon my accent in advance, all right? I've lived in Texas all of my life up until around 3 years ago, when I took a leap of faith and decided to join the West Allis, West Milwaukee School District. My education, I have a bachelor's in government, minor in history from Houston-Tillotson University in Austin, Texas. My master's is from Prairie View A&M University in Prairie View, Texas. And my doctorate is from the University of Houston in Houston, Texas. All of my experience has been in Title I situations or in public education. And I'm excited to be here. I believe I have the best job on earth because I have the opportunity to make a difference. And I hope at some point during this particular discussion, we will talk about the differences we are making in our district and the changes that we're seeing immediately so far within these past 3 years. Just excited to be here and excited for the opportunity to engage with everyone here today.
All right, it's Dr. Brenda Cassellius.
Thank you, Ken, for having this really important conversation. I was able to come a little earlier and hear from Dr. Azard, and I just was blown away by the information he was giving, and I can't wait to partner with him on a coordinated and comprehensive support system for our students around public health, because I think we have a public health crisis right now going on with our children within the community that needs to be addressed, and I want to be part of that. What I'm finding out more and more every day that I am here, and I've been here just now approaching my 8th month, is that my job as superintendent is going to be much bigger than just trying to educate our kids. It's going to be providing support, connecting to the city, the county services, and coordinating a comprehensive system that's going to really serve our children and our students and our families really well, and hopefully rebuild and reinvest in our communities, particularly our most vulnerable communities and our Black community. I think I'm joined here by Director Jackson from the school board. Let's give him a round of applause. I'm really lucky as a superintendent to have such a supportive school board who is really willing to dig in and to the work that we have ahead of us. And it's not going to be easy work, as you know, and read in the papers every single day. Ken asked me right away, any questions that are off topic, and I said no. You know, I am an open book. I'm transparent. I'm bringing transparency to the Milwaukee Public Schools. You know what's going on. I have nothing to hide. We're going to dig in. We make mistakes. We but we're gonna admit our mistakes, we're gonna move on and fix them, and just do the best we can for our children together. So you can always get that from me, and I'll always show up when you invite me. So need to be around me with the real community anyway. So I'm Brenda Cassellius. I've been in this work 36 years. I say this job is one of the hardest jobs I've ever had right now. But I'm happy to do it, and I think God brought me here to do this job. So I'm living by faith each and every day to do this work. I grew up in the Southeast Projects of Minneapolis, Minnesota. I started as a paraprofessional. I had people who paid it forward for me, so I dedicated my life to paying it forward for children. I wake up every day to make a difference for 65,000 kids, and that's what I get to do, and I'm so blessed to be able to do it. I've been a paraprofessional, started as a paraprofessional, and was a teacher, was a school leader, was a district leader, was a superintendent, was the highest position in education in the state of Minnesota as the State Commissioner of Education for 8 years that I probably served with Governor Mark Dayton leading that, and then I was most recently the superintendent of Boston Public Schools during the pandemic. Had 3 mayors, 3 board chairs, and handled a public health crisis during that time, and then came back, and now I'm really blessed to be here in Milwaukee, so happy to answer all your questions.
So let's talk about the educational pipeline. How much influence do you have on that pipeline? I mean, you know, you can't control what children are in your district that are coming in at 3K, 4K, 5K. But what can you do to help those families that have younger kids that are gonna help you create the educational pipeline you need so that a city can actually grow?
Well, I believe that the pipeline starts right at conception, with supporting the parents and supporting the family and the birth mother and maternal health. Like Dr. was talking about, maternal health has every impact on the child's success in life right away. And so that's where it starts. In Minnesota, we had a great program called Early Child Family Education, which was a birth to age 5 program that supported families and did home visiting and had family education for parents for their health, their developmental milestones, providing the support, the prevention programs for both the mother and the family and the child. That's where it really starts. And then we have really strong preschool programs to learn the fundamentals of, their phonics and their literacy and all of their social emotional well-being that happens. We have some of those programs in Milwaukee Public Schools for our 3-year-olds. What's most important that I'm finding right now in Milwaukee Public Schools is a need to identify much earlier our students with autism so that they can get the support that they need and get early intervention, because they really do thrive so much more better when they are given these early supports. So I've issued a special ed audit, and we're going to have a special ed audit in March in Milwaukee Public Schools to look at our special education programming, because we want to be sure that we are doing this early intervention for families and helping families understand how to support their young children at the ages of birth through age 5, so when they get to us, we can make sure that they have everything that they need so that we can educationally prepare for them and not be doing so much catch up. So that's really important. So then the other piece is, and just make sure that kids are reading on grade level by grade 3, so that then they can learn all the content that they need to learn to be prepared in middle school and high school to prepare for the rigor that's needed for college and for career. And that's how that pipeline is built. So you have to scaffold it and understand the different developmental levels, both the social emotional well-being, the health outcomes of the child, and the educational outcomes. If any 1-3 of those pillars is not right, then the child is not going to thrive and be able to have good life outcomes.
Dr. Robinson, people tend to have a different point of view when it comes to suburban school districts, but there's some powerful things going on out there.
So I would say we're not suburban. We're more urban than suburban, okay? We're right on the border with Milwaukee, and so a lot of our kids go back and forth. So I think we have more suburban problems than urban problems. I agree with Doc on a lot of the things that she said. We have to take accountability as a district. There's no longer a situation where we have to leave it up to the parent. There's a term, a Latin term, it's called in locus parentis. It means in place of parent. It means that the school system has to take responsibility for every single kid and their outcome. And that's something that we have to believe in as a district. If you don't believe in that, you can't work for me, bottom line. If you don't believe that you're responsible for the outcomes of students, you can't work for me. If you don't believe that your success, their success is your success. If you don't watch your pronouns, if you only say and take responsibility when they're successful, and then when they're not successful, you say, oh, they didn't do well, then you can't work for me. That's just how I roll in, what we've been trying to instill in our community within our district. We have to take accountability for every single kid. Just like Doc said, she's looking at the special education audit. We had one conducted last May. And we have, out of that audit, launched multiple autism classes, additional classes within our school system, and also the rooms where our kids can have that emotional stimulation. And so those are things that we've really looked at and trying to figure out, like, what's our role in making sure that our kids are successful in life? If kids go through our system, they're not able to read by third grade, then guess what the system outside of us is doing? They're creating systems of incarceration. They're looking at our numbers and saying, okay, this amount of kids can't read on level, this amount of kids are labeled as special ed, this amount of kids are labeled as at risk. So guess what? We need to project in the future, this is the amount of beds we're going to need to house these kids. That's what's happening in society. So as a school system, we have to turn that around and take responsibility and say, if our kids are not reading, then it's our job to get them to read. If our kids are not on level academically with mathematics, it's our job to intervene and make that happen. That's our job as a school district. We have to take responsibility for that, and we have to take ownership for that. Their success is our success, and that's our job. So within that pipeline, let me tell you something. If we don't do something as a school district to make sure that our kids are successful and we kick them out, guess what's going to happen? They're going to be waiting on us, sitting in our cars when we come out of stores, ready to rob us. We have to make sure that we intervene as a school district to prevent that from happening. Our expulsion rates, they've dropped tremendously because we've been very, very intentional in making sure that we have second chance programs to give our kids those opportunities, because once we expel them, guess what we're doing? We're also contributing to that pipeline to prison. So it's about intentional actions to make sure that we address that as a school system.
Thank you. Dr. Cassellius, you've had a pretty traumatic week this week with NPS, with the tragic killing of a high school student, robbed outside of a school, went back to the school for help. And from the outside looking in and with a law enforcement background, it looks like the school did everything they were supposed to do properly, made sure that young man got help, but unfortunately he passed away. What was that experience for you like this week?
Quite honestly, it's actually really hard for me to be here today. I spent some time with the family at the hospital yesterday, and I just haven't been the same in the past 24 hours. It's just really had a visceral impact on me personally, and it's hard for me to not just lose myself right now, to manage through this and to actually think straight. So I think about the trauma that I'm feeling from this child and trying to comfort this mother and grandmother yesterday, to what our teachers feel each and every day, to what our principals feel each and every day, to what our parents are feeling each and every day, and to what our students are feeling every single day when they lose a friend or a family member. And it just resonates. It just resonates through the whole community. It is so traumatic. And last year we had 23 children lose their lives throughout the year. And I'm just devastated by it. I called it out in May. I'll continue to call it out. Just yesterday, I was with the county exec, I was with the mayor, I was with the Children's, I was with Urban League, the chief of police, all of my security people, lots of violence interrupters, lots of other nonprofit community members yesterday morning. And as soon as I was done speaking at this gun violence summit to pull us all together, because we'd been working on it for a couple months to pull us all together, I sat down and my two heads of security came over and said, we just had a student shot. I about lost it. I just turned pale, had to walk out of the conference and start managing this crisis within our system. So this just has to stop. It's not normal. 36 years, I've never seen anything like it, which is why I want to partner with Dr. Izzard, because this is a public health crisis.
So then,
And we had a program in Boston called the Comprehensive Behavioral Health Model. And I was on with Gil Perry, who's the CEO of Children, saying, we need to get this in our schools. We'll start with our communities that are suffering the most, and then we'll build out this cohort model. It's been 13 years in Boston where they add about 10 schools each year to this model, which does universal screening around behavior and health outcomes for students. There's data sharing. We work together with our social workers, our coordinators, our health professionals, clinics, and we get the kind of preventative and intervention services that are needed through a tiered model. And I am committed to getting this in Boston, in Milwaukee Public Schools.
we talk a lot about the traumatic side and things that occur as it relates to family and issues in the streets. But what about curriculum? At some point, we have to nail down the fact that the scores, you know, we have a Department of Public Instruction that, for all intent and purpose, soften the score so it really doesn't look like a school is bad, but it really doesn't give you an accurate understanding of what the issues are at that school. So with that, do we change curriculum? Is it important to have culturally competent curriculum, or do we follow what we've followed over the past 50 years and just do reading, writing, and arithmetic?
I think there has to be a nice mixture of it. I really believe that it's important to educate kids on where they come from. You have to, in order for a kid to understand where they're going, they have to actually understand where they come from. They have to understand what their origin is. And they have to have people around them, most importantly though, that can relate to that and that actually can speak to that. I think that's the part I have in my district. So for example, I could pull up my two hands and tell you the number of African American teachers I had in my district up to 2 years ago, okay? It was these two hands right here. And I have 15 schools, okay? I can name them. And there are several schools that don't have any. Right? And so what we've been able to do is be intentional about addressing that. And I have a very open board that says we have to improve that. The number of minority students is growing, so guess what? We have to also grow the number of minority teachers in our district. That has to match. It may not match, but we have to close that gap to where it's here and make it more of a here. That has to happen. Our kids will the research shows they'll be able to relate better to somebody who looks like them, who can talk like them, who understands what they're going through, who comes from the same environment they come from, and are a story of inspiration. Kids relate to that much better than somebody who has no idea where they come from or the things that they're going through when they go home. When they go home to a parent who's at work and the kid has to go home to just watch TV until the parent comes home, we have many teachers who don't understand what that means or what that looks like. And so we have to create environments where that our kids can thrive. And that's why in our district we have before school and after school programs so our kids can stay active. This is, and I'm talking about $75 for a semester. Like it's you're not going to find anything that's cheaper than that. So the district is taking the brunt of that cost and saying, look, we're just trying to keep our kids engaged and active in lessons and sports and activities so they don't go home to an empty house. So they don't go home to the streets and wait for their parent to come home. They actually have a place to go. And so that's just something that we've been trying to be more intentional about as a district so we can definitely close those gaps. It is about opportunity gaps that we've definitely been trying to close in our district.
But different causes
Sure.
cause different issues.
100%.
MPS has a significant number of black administrators, black principals, black paras, black teachers, but yet there seems to be a disconnect with some of the issues that are going on. And I know you've done some great things to address those, but what can be done over the next, say, 5 years in order to help MPS understand what's going on in the community? I know you talked about working with Dr. Izzard, but what other forms of assistance can you give teachers through professional development or whatever to help them, to bring them along?
Well, there are two separate things that you're asking here. One is like the support to our families and to our community. So I've been out in the community, talking to the community. Part of that is today, right? And every other time I'm out in the community. We have also monthly meetings that are going to be starting on the 19th, so I hope and encourage all of you to come out. My team, my academic superintendents, you'll be able to meet them. They're going to be working directly with their communities, with their principals. We used to have 4 regional superintendents who supervised 30 principals, way too many. Now we built that down to 8. So now that there are 15 schools that they supervise, so they get to walk those schools every single week and support their principals directly and support their teachers, which is another way to really launch out any kind of literacy program, for instance, that we're doing, or other type of academic programming that we're doing, and support families and make sure families are informed and listened to and valued. So that's one. We created a family and community engagement office. We didn't have one before, so that we can be more intentional about our parent coordinators who are in our building supporting our families. That's also extremely important. And so those pieces are really important because families are our first teachers to our children. And so they have to be part of the solution. You have to be, children don't come to us as just children, they come to us as whole systems of support. And so all those systems have to be working together. And so I'm doing a lot of work on the rebuilding within Milwaukee Public Schools of our family supports, community supports around the support and wraparound supports of our children. That's one piece. The second piece is then putting in place extremely explicit, common, shared vision around what the academic programming is and making sure that MTEA is at the table, that teachers are engaged in that, and that has been bumpy. That has been hard. There's been resistance to change. It's been difficult. And so we are working through that. I've brought in an external partner to help us negotiate and navigate the relationships between the union and the administration and making sure that we're all working together. And so that is back on track, which is positive, but we need to put in place our high quality materials, which we didn't have before. We need to then train our teachers in the science of reading. We need to make sure then that they have the implementation skills and the time to actually do that. Because I remember now, I've only been here 8 months. I inherited the previous budget. I inherited the calendar. I inherited all of the people who are here. So what I have to do is be able to work with what I have now this year and get ready for next year where we'll really do the big launch, where I can create the structures and systems and put the money where it needs to be specifically so that teachers have what they need and the time they need to actually practice their craft at what they're learning and get it to children, and then get these systems of the other coordination with other partners like all of you, and for the other coordinated external supports that are going to support children and families outside of school and somewhat inside school too, to help our social workers, our counselors, our nurses to provide that support as well. So there's this outside external kind of social emotional behavioral supports, building the culture that has to happen, so, and the conditions for children to learn well in, that all has to happen, while we're also building the academic side of the house. And don't forget, we had the governor's operational audit because the district was in such need of shape to build out the finances, the HR systems, you know, all of our technology systems, et cetera. You know, we were dealing with the lead crisis, which I can happily say all schools but one are now abated for lead. So we're ahead of schedule on that. We also have our audit in, and so we're on target to get our last audit, FY25, in by December 15, so the finances are in order, which is another piece that we're really struggling, we struggled with. So a couple of those operational things. So there's the operational pieces, there's the academic pieces, and then there's the safety and wellness pieces that we need to put in place as well.
Absolutely.
Nothing going on in
No,
Milwaukee
she brings
Public
up some
Schools.
great points. I think as far as the West Allis, West Milwaukee School District, one of the things, a couple of things we've been doing very intentional in the last 3 years is focusing on curriculum. We've implemented a brand new curriculum. This past year, we worked with a group called Instructional Partners in making sure that we had a guaranteed viable curriculum for every single kid in our district. I would tell you when I came in, the district reminded me of the song Tony, Tony, Tony by Tony, Tony, Tony called It Feels Good. You know, everything just feels good. But the problem with that is the scores don't say that, okay? And I'm telling teachers are saying, well, we just do it because we think it's just the right thing to do. We have to base that on something. And that, to me, that's deficit thinking, though, because you're saying that our kids can't do. You're saying, well, we just give them this,
Correct.
and they're able to. So we're good. But then when they're faced against the forward exam, they're looking at the forward exam, and it's like calculus compared to the math that they've been doing, right? It's not even to that level. So I've said, no, our kids can do. Guys, I got a doctorate, and I'm black. Our kids, every single kid can do that. And I'm not special. Every single kid can do. But we got to believe that we have to instill that in them. And that was that deficit thinking that we had to change. We got to move from a feels good system to we are doing it. Because the question I'm going to always ask somebody is, well, how are you measuring success? If you can't tell me how you're measuring success, then you're hurting my kids. And I want you to be able to tell me, how do you know that we are successful or what you're doing is successful? How are you measuring that? So that's just very important when we're looking at curriculum and making sure things are viable for all kids, because all kids can do.
But doesn't some of that come down to teacher expectation?
100%.
I've learned growing up that in the end, when you're in a classroom, it should be your sanctuary.
Sure.
That should be the place where you learn all the things that you need to learn, but yet it doesn't seem to happen because from what I'm hearing is that the teachers don't believe young black and young brown kids can do it, therefore they respond to them in that way, whether they can do it or not.
Well, that was the past.
Right.
We've definitely turned the corner on that.
Okay.
We've gladly and welcomed some exits out of the district because, you know, if you don't believe that our kids can do it, then this is not the place for you. And we have to be honest about that and have some honest conversations. What we're doing. Let me tell you what I've also tried to demonstrate, and that's the 3 A's. What I call it. It's accessibility, availability, and accountability. And I've put that into every single person that works for me. I told them I don't want to see y'all in central office. You need to be in schools. I don't want to see you looking at me because I'm not going to be here. I'm in schools. I'm walking classrooms. I'm talking curriculum. I'm pulling up, when I walk in a classroom, I pull my phone out. I'm not checking Twitter or Threads or anything. No. You know what I'm doing? I'm actually looking at the curriculum documents because I want to know, are you teaching what you're supposed to be teaching and how you're supposed to be teaching it? I'm an instructional leader, and I expect every single person that works for me to be the same way. So when I have that conversation with a teacher who we may need to exit out, and they're having this conversation and talking about how excellent they are, I can say, no, because when I was in your classroom on this day, this is what I saw. My district is not big enough, not so big where I can't do that. Now, Doc here, she's got a bigger beast over there. I can do that, and I gladly do that because I believe how I'm more impactful is being inside of the work and inside of the buildings.
Okay.
Yeah, I had the privilege of being in, I can't remember now because it's blur, but I had 2 days of school visits this week, and when I get in there, I'm able to have those instructional conversations with the principal and with the teachers, which is great. But I don't get the same opportunity, obviously, that you do with the 153 schools, and so there's a lot of different complexities to running a much larger organization, obviously. But the instructional focus stays the same, so I have help. So I have a whole team, right? And the academic superintendents are in the schools. They don't even have offices in the central office. We've moved our offices out into the schools because I felt like we needed more central office personnel in the schools, supporting the schools. So many of those offices have moved out into the schools.
So we talk about education, but many times we don't talk about the end of it. We're talking either a pathway to career or a pathway to higher education. But at some point, can we look forward in the next 3 to 4 years with all the issues that are happening in education now, where there are less children being born? So you've got less kids in the pipeline coming into schools, but yet prices are constantly going up. Families are transient. Many families aren't owning homes the way they used to. How's that going to impact the pathway of a child that you have there when you know in the future you may not have access to that tax base that you've been able to use for your budget?
That's a lot you just said, right? You bring up funding issues,
Yeah.
because our funding is based on per pupil.
Right.
You also bring up, sort of conflicts in ideology a bit.
Correct.
Without saying it, you bring it up. It is truly scary times in public education. It really is. There is this war between public education and other means of education. Vouchers are a serious threat because right now I believe we spend around $10,000 to $13,000 per kid who goes out versus only receiving very minimal amount of that coming in for every kid. So it's very lopsided how things are working right now, and we have to also be aware of that. The various title funds that we've been relying on for years, they're in question.
Yeah.
I don't know what the new funding system is going to look like, a new funding bill in a couple of years. It's going to be something to really watch because we've been depending on Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV. But as you know, a lot of those funds were actually delayed this year with the new administration and for whatever reason, but it's a huge threat. But it's one of those things, Dr. Harris. I can only worry about and control what I can control. Okay. And I just promise, as a superintendent, that every single kid that comes through those doors, we're going to educate them. And I've told parents from the New Berlin district, the superintendent from New Berlin, our neighbors who have it a little bit better than we have it.
Okay.
I educate whoever walks through my doors, and I try to provide them the same level of opportunity and the opportunity they deserve to receive. Every kid, and this is a statement I'm going to say, it may not be popular in this room, but I probably wouldn't have said it 20 years ago. Every kid is not going to college. So knowing that and understanding that, what do we do as a system? And we have committed in the West Allis, West Milwaukee School District to provide those kids a pipeline. So if you don't want to go to college and you're telling me you want to be a welder, we're going to provide you that welding certification so you can go out and you can go make $50 an hour. If you want to be a plumber, you can go out and make $250 an hour. We're trying to prepare, very similar to what MPS has done an excellent job in doing with traits and CTE model. We are trying to emulate that same system to provide students with opportunities that they want and that they believe they can be successful in life if college is not the choice that they want to take.
I've got to say that one of the things I've found is a bright spot in Milwaukee Public Schools is our college and career pathways. They just do a really nice job, and we just have seeds of programs within our schools, and we could scale them so quickly. So I added 2 high school superintendents who are going to be working with our principals and working with our colleges through our MQ partnership to be able to design even more programming for our students. Just the other day, we got a $23 million Gear Up grant to start a middle school all the way through high school and your first year post-secondary, following students, making sure they have early access. We have thousands of students who are participating in our, I think, 16 different CTE pathways that we have. We have NAEF certified programming, Project Lead the Way. We have, I think it used to be called Youth Options programs, where students can go directly into college, and then we pay for that college. We had 62,000 students in MPS job fairs. It's 6,200, students in job fairs. It's just like our FAFSA completion rate is one of the best, and we outpace the state at 62%. can't tell you. 113 million in scholarships last year. I think it was our third year in a row having over $100 million in scholarships for our students. So our high schools are getting the job done with those career pathways, and so I think that is actually a bright light for us, and one that we're going to grow on and try to build back upon. You may have heard me talk about grade reconfiguration within our school. We have a number of K-8 schools. I don't think our seventh, and I'm a middle school expert, have spent a lot of my career at the secondary level, particularly at middle school, and our middle schoolers in seventh and eighth grade just are not getting the level of rigor and opportunity that they need to be prepared in high school. And so, I think that they could get a better opportunity in 7 through 12 schools. We have a couple of schools that are proving that, and, Obama School, the School of Languages, High School Arts, these schools have earlier grade levels in them. And so Carmen School has earlier grade levels in them. There's a number of schools that are demonstrating that you can have a 7 through 12 successfully, and kids can have all of the athletic programming, all of the career programming, all of the CTE programming, all of the rigorous AP classes, international baccalaureate classes, all of that. And so I'm starting to look at that option and talking to the community about some of our K-8 schools going to a K-6 model and a 7 through 12 model in our high schools to give them these better opportunities.
All right. In all seriousness, what does success look like for you, Dr. Robinson, in 5 years?
It's a great question, actually. We just launched a strategic plan. We created a strategic plan over the summer, and September the board approved it. So we have 4 specific goals: math, literacy, CTE, as well as special education. So the effort that we're embarking on is to close gaps. And those gaps will be measured in our strategic plan. Before, the plan was very qualitative, as I said, feels good, versus quantitative. When I arrived and I looked at our previous strategic plan, one of my mentors said to me, she says, "Terrence, you have no accountability right now." And I said, "Yeah, and that doesn't make me feel good." Okay? Because I'll put it on me. Put it on me, because we get lax when we don't have anything to measure our success. So I put it on myself, because I feel like if I feel it, guess who else is going to feel it? Everybody else under me. And that's what we've tried to do. So my strategic plan, if we're successful in 5 years, that's how I know we're moving the mark. How do I know right now? And there are incremental points right now, right? So in the last 2 years, we've increased our overall score by 11 points. I have no failing schools in the West Allis, West Milwaukee School District right now. Prior to that, we had 2. We have all of our secondary schools are at meets expectations or better. So we're doing some great things. So we have measures, and I know he just walked in the room. My good frat brother, Dr. Means, I'm trying to beat Tulsa. That's my target, So I have targets that Tulsa, Wauwatosa, and Waukesha, like those are my targets right now. I am really going after people who I think in the past that people have thought we weren't as good as. And that's what we're about. We're about making a difference in our district. And I think so in 5 years, our strategic plan, that's the roadmap that we've laid out, that we'll know if we're doing a good job or not for our kids.
Now I'm going to call an audible. Dr.
Wait a minute
Means.
now, what does success look like for Milwaukee?
Yes, ma'am. We're going to get to it, but I'm going to call an audible.
It looks like
we're going to
him
get
looking at Milwaukee Public
Dr.
Schools and saying, I want to be like Milwaukee Public Schools. That's what I want to see happen.
Okay.
No, but really.
But in 5 years, what will?
So
Milwaukee look
currently,
like?
I think this is a statistic everybody knows. 91% of our students on the 4th grade National Assessment of Educational Program, our black students, are not meeting grade level literacy. And we are the worst among all large urbans in the nation. I want to see that change. I'd rather be in the top 10% of states. So that's one. And then I want to see the health outcomes of our children. I don't want any more children losing their lives in Milwaukee Public Schools needlessly. That to me is a measure of success as well, that we've put together the coordinated supports and helps that are supporting our families and supporting our children.
All right, thank you. And so with that, we have our third panelist, Dr. Demond Means, Superintendent of Wauwatosa School District. I know you've been busy all week long, all month long. It's great to see you. Since we're so far ahead, why don't you just tell us about yourself and how you became superintendent and give us a little bit of your background?
You don't want that story. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'll try to be succinct and try to catch up with these two fine scholars. My name is Damon Means. I'm a lifelong Milwaukeean, born and raised here. I grew up in the Sherman Park area, and I'm a proud graduate of Milwaukee Public Schools. I'll always represent MPS. And I guess I'm a double MPS person in that my dad was a school engineer. He was one of those people that wore the green uniforms if you were in the schools. And so Milwaukee Public Schools has a double special place in my heart because they put food on my table. Yeah. They literally put food on my table and pay for health care and college and you name it. I had teachers that impacted me throughout my time in Milwaukee Public Schools who said, don't go to school to be a lawyer, don't go to school to be something else. We need you to come back into our community and teach the next generation. And so that's what I've done. I believe that the superintendency is where you can make policy impact. I've been a superintendent now for 17 years. In 3 different districts. I was a superintendent in a place called Mequon-Thiensville, which is north of here. I was a superintendent in the state of Georgia in a place called Clark County. It's where the University of Georgia is located. And I've now been in Wauwatosa this is my 5th year, I believe it is. This is my second, I like to say it's my second tour in Wauwatosa because I was the director of human resources prior. So Dr. Harris, I know that I'm catching up again with these two fine scholars. I would just add this. I was privileged to be named the chair of the Closing the Achievement Gap, Promoting Success for All task force that then State Superintendent Tony Evers, before he became governor, he allowed me to be the chair of it. And so Ken's known me since I I had hair, I'll put it that way. Yeah. So I'll try to stay consistent with what I try to represent. I appreciate all of you being here this afternoon. I appreciate you staying associated with these community conversations, and I'm tired of talking. I'm tired of talking about our black kids not getting X, not getting Y, not getting Z. And in fact, now we have another population of our Hispanic brothers and sisters not getting the proper educational perspective that they need. I don't care whatever school district you go to. It could be my district. It could be a district now up north. We know that we look at the statistics, our kids of color are the ones who are not achieving well. And they're the ones who are suspended and disciplined more than anyone else. And so the people who are in the classrooms, the people who are controlling policy decisions for education, we just need to ask people, what are we doing? I've been part of these panels for too long where we have the same conversation and we have the same talking. I guess I pose it to you as a community. So when is enough enough? Because we're losing kids. And it's not a mystery. It's not a mystery in terms of what we have to do to do the right thing for kids. And so it's going to just take will and not talk.
Thank you much. So when it comes to accountability, we always talk about the superintendent, we talk about the teachers, we talk about the paraprofessionals, but we never really talk about the community. I'll start with Dr. Means. What do you expect from the community in relation to their public schools? Because we already see, right? We need mentoring. We need parents to be there to support, PTA, all those things. But what's the one thing that you would need from the community to support your schools in Wauwatosa?
I had a meeting. We have a group that we've created. It's called the Multi-Ethnic Parent Association, or MIPA, and it's for our families of color who advocate within our system. And we were discussing how things are not working well for some of our kids of color. And so I used to teach U.S. history. I was a history teacher. And so I said, here's the deal to these parents. I said, if I taught 3 sections of U.S. history, and I had 75 kids, and I gave a test, follow me, guys. I give a test, and of the 75 kids that took my U.S. history test, 50 did not get a proficient score. Who failed? Who failed? And I think sometimes when we have these conversations about accountability, in the districts that I've been in that are considered to be high achieving school systems, I can guarantee you, the parents came in and they went to the teacher. They didn't come to the superintendent. They didn't go to the principal. They didn't go to social media. They went to the teacher and they said, look, my kid failed. I know I put my work in. I had a table where my child studied. They did what they were supposed to do. Your test failed. So what are you going to do? And until a school system, I don't care if it's MPS, what's Milwaukee, Wauwatosa, until that happens, things don't change. So when I've been in a lot of North Shore school systems, I can guarantee you, I know it, those parents hold teachers accountable. And it's not the superintendent. And so when I get those calls in Wauwatosa, I'll say sometimes, time out. Have you talked to the teacher? Because the job that Brenda has, the job that Dr. Robinson has, our job is to set the conditions. Our job is to set the conditions. So we give the resources, we create the conditions for teachers to teach, and then they're supposed to teach. Then that's where the magic happens. And so if I'm the U.S. history teacher, when you want to understand what's happening in education, that's the scenario I give you. If a teacher has 75 kids and 50 of them did not pass the test, whose fault is it? And I wouldn't use the word fault, but who has the responsibility to do something else? It's not that the kids have to learn something else now. The teacher has to go back and reteach. This is not that complicated. We make it super complicated, and it's not that complicated. So until we get into a mode of people, but see what happens, Dr. Harris, is people say, well, the children, they don't come to school with breakfast. And, they're coming. I have worked with kids who don't come to school with breakfast. They don't have home lives that we want, but they're smart. All they're looking for is somebody to teach them. But don't fall back on the fact that they don't have breakfast because you didn't teach the subject. That's not on them. That's on you. And so until we start talking in those terms, now what you need to hold the 3 of us accountable for is to give our teachers the conditions.
Correct.
Pay them
Correct.
appropriately. Make sure they have good materials. Make sure they don't have 40 kids in one classroom. Make sure that they have low class sizes. That's our job. But if we do our job, then when I was in the classroom, I taught. If that happened to me when I was teaching and I had taught 75 kids and 50 of them didn't pass the test, I said, what did I do wrong? I didn't go to, they do live in 53206. Oh, no, come on now. Teach. Do your job. Because I know Milwaukee has the resources. Allis has the resources. Now, do we need to do more? Of course. But that, I think, I love your question, but I want to always just leave the community with that scenario.
Anything to add?
I got to steal that scenario because I think he's 100% right. I know as a former principal, I would always pull my failure report when it was report card time, and it was very frustrating when you have high numbers of students who are failing in specific classrooms. And then you'd see the teacher say, oh, my class is hard. No, you failed these kids. You literally failed them. You're not benefiting the situation. So I agree with that 100%. I think though, as far as the community is concerned, what do we need from them? We need support. Support looks different. Okay.
Right. What does that look like?
So support could be volunteering. Support could be when we call you, come help us.
Okay.
When we need volunteers and tutors, come do that. A lot of our parents have the skills to do that. We can't just assume they can't do it. And so we have to be inviting though, because I think also after COVID, this is my experience, and I'm not sure if anybody else shares this, our schools kind of closed up a little bit, and we never really opened back up, you know? And so that's why the volunteer rate, and parents always saying, well, you know, they said that we can't come. Who said you can't come? What do you mean? But because after COVID, you know, I think a lot of schools took the advantage. Oh, you know, it's a good time to keep them out. No. It doesn't work like that. Wow. We need parents in our schools. We need volunteers in our schools. We need support. And that, so that's a broad term. It looks different. It could be different. Each school needs a different level of support.
Right.
Okay, depending on how the school looks. So, you know, I'm going to speak with that broad term because it does look different. It depends on the situation. Okay. So, you know, support is a situational. I'm using it situational right now because the school on the west side of my district that's closer to New Berlin may need a different level of support that's on versus the one that's in West Milwaukee. It looks different.
Okay. So when you talk about support, and I can only use MPS because I did a lot of mentoring in MPS, part of the issue, and tell me, can we fix this in any district? We ask, especially of black men, to be in the schools. We already know that it's predominantly women teaching our children. But the problem is that the men that would go are the men that have jobs. So you're asking us to take off of our work for our families to come to school at a convenient time for you, 11 o'clock in the morning, which is absolutely ridiculous because I'm at work. But then we get bashed. You don't support your kids. We don't see more black men, more black organizations in schools. And it's a catch-22. If I show up, it's great, but I can mentor now because I don't have a job, or I don't come. How can we fix that? And especially in a place like MPS, but Dr.
I just want to be very clear, because I don't think I answered your question, Dr. Harris. What we need from the community is for somebody to ask the question, if we have teachers who are teaching, I'm going to just use a simple equation, 75 kids and 50 fail, who's reteaching to the children? That's what I need from the community. I don't need any more, any less. And frankly, I don't need people to come in to mentor. I don't need any of that. I just need somebody who's going to come to a board meeting 3 times a year. And it would be powerful if it was a group of black men and women in your work clothes. So when my daddy came up to my school in his green uniform, it sent a message that was still a working man. Somebody needs to come to these meetings and just say, hold up. There's a bunch of people teaching children and they're not learning. Who's responsible for the reteaching? Please let us know. We'll come back for a report and then just leave. Because what I've seen is that when that type of community engagement happens, it does send a shockwave through the system because it's abnormal. It doesn't normally happen. And just stay consistent. You don't have to be at every meeting. That's all I need. I don't need mentoring, because what that's going to do, Dr. Harris, is that sends a message to the system that we can't continue to ignore those kids.
Correct.
All right. A couple of really simple things. Employers can be part of the solution. So employers can give days off to families and black men and, their employees to go in and volunteer in the schools. We've seen the mayor step up and do Adopt a School now with all of his departments required to go into schools. So he's going to release city personnel to come into our Milwaukee Public Schools. I'm super pleased about that. It's part of our new Kids Cabinet initiative. I sit on the mayor's cabinet, and this is something I asked him to do, and he's been a great partner. So that's one thing, and so he's leading the way for other employers to be able to do that. One thing that I think is another area, it doesn't always have to be during the school day. We have another bright spot in Milwaukee Public Schools is our rec programs. And so Milwaukee Rec is just a gem. And so we have twilight programs, we have programs in the weekends, we have programs in the evenings, we have athletic events, can be coaches, you can be mentors through our new mentoring program with the new Gear Up grant. There's Mentoring Milwaukee is doing some great work. There's all kinds of ways to volunteer in a child's life that way, big brothers, big sisters, et cetera. And then just personally, what I need as superintendent and new to Milwaukee is for y'all just to adopt me as a Milwaukeean. And
Okay.
I know that trust is earned, but I'm on a timeline here, and I got urgent matters to deal with, and I don't have time to earn the broken trust that was with the former administrations of a decade, 2 decades. I need y'all to trust me. I have hard decisions that I need to bring to the community. I need to wrestle with those with you, and we need to make them together. We've got to right-size this district. We got to cut some money out of our budget so that we can give our kids what they need during the school day, get rid of some of the waste that we have and put it right back into kids. These are hard decisions, and I'm going to get a lot of pushback, and I'm going to need the community to be behind me on it. I can't have people like fight me on these things. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to do it. So I think what I really need from the community is to trust my 36 years of experience. I will always be honest and transparent with you. I will give you the data and show you my best thinking, and take your feedback and adjust it as I have to. But we have some really hard decisions to make together around merging and closing schools and about cutting some of the budget out so that we can get the funding to our kids.
All right, thank you much. Any final thoughts? Dr. Cassellius, anything you want to leave us
Well, I'm
with?
appreciative to my colleagues. I hope that I can lend on your wisdom, especially as longtime Milwaukeean, and knowing the system and having the experience here. So really glad to be up here with you and honored to be up here with you. And thank you, Ken, for continuing to elevate the voices of the community and making sure that we're all held accountable. And thank you all for showing up today on a Saturday. I know you have families and other things to do, and you're part of the solution. So thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Dr. Robinson?
So before I close, I want to address your organization, your comment real quick. I just want to say this. I think we have to still try and create a place for organizations and groups to come into our schools, okay? Being a part of a couple of different organizations, having a job, I still would come and volunteer. So I think that needs to happen. I've already tried to put out to Greek letter organizations that we need to be involved in our schools. As far as the panel up here, I want to thank my colleagues in this work for the comments. A lot of things that both of them are doing, I'm trying to steal them. I'm trying to be like them when I grow up. I'm not even joking because MPS has some outstanding, every time I'm talking to organizations and different groups, specifically around college and career readiness, they always say, you got to talk to MPS. Just talked to Aurora the other day, you got to go talk to MPS. So we definitely have to communicate and figure out what they're doing. My mentor, my Milwaukee mentor to my left right here, my good fraternity brother, I call him about every single thing, big and small, and he always answers the phone, and so I'm really very grateful for his work as well. I don't believe that everybody in here knew that a black man was leading the West Allis, West Milwaukee School District. Okay? And that's a doggone shame. All right? I've been here, I'm on my 3rd year. All right? 3rd year. That means I haven't done a good enough job in getting the word out outside of my community. Okay? Huh? I'm the very first. Very first. In fact, I'll just be very transparent. Transparency is one of the words that I value. Transparency and vulnerability. They're important to me. When I walked into the office on my first day, I saw all of the pictures on the wall of the past superintendents. And I asked myself, am I in the right place right now? Felt like the Twilight Zone. But it's something that I have a lot of honor in knowing that I am the first and the first of many, because the district is changing. When I tell people I'm the superintendent of West Allis, West Milwaukee, their head does this. You say, oh, what, West Allis? Like, I still get that. So it's all good. It's all good, people. When I know y'all was shocked, all right? I'm here. I'm here to stay, too. But come see what we're doing over there. Okay. You have an open invitation. Matter of fact, we have board meeting Monday night. Come see me. But guess what happens when you show up? You know what the boys gonna do? Do you know him? Do you know her? Because they think we all know each other. They do. I get that a lot. And I say, and you know what I say? Oh yeah, that's my cousin. No, but seriously, thank you guys for having me today.
All right, thank you much. Dr. Means?
Brenda and Terrence is doing really good work, but I just want you to know that over the last 18 months, we've lost 2 black superintendents in Wisconsin because of political pressure and just people pushing them out. So when you hear Brenda and Terrence say support them, they mean these are rare. It's rare for black people to be in the superintendency role because you are a CEO of a very important community and business function. So please support them and all of us that's in these really critical and I would say dangerous roles. I believe black kids and kids of color are brilliant. Not smart, I think they're brilliant. To be a disruptive student, you need to be smart. I like to always tell people to be a criminal, you have to be extra smart. You can't not be smart and be a criminal. And so I believe that we have brilliant kids. The work happens in the classroom. The job of the superintendent is to create the conditions so they have the materials, they have the compensation, they have the true conditions to do what they need to do. After that, friends, we need you, and again, we don't need you to come to every meeting. I need you to come to a meeting 3 times a year and appoint somebody to say, Reuben Harpo, how many of you all know Reuben Harpo? Reuben will always say the African proverb of how are the children? If you're not asking in the community, how are the children? And that's all you need to, if you just designate somebody to come to a board meeting and to ask the question to the superintendent and the board, how are the children? And then ask, how are the children that look like me? And then leave. That's all you have to do. But that's not happening. And so when Dr. Harris asked the question, what we need from the community, that's all I need. I don't need a company to say, we're going to come in and do a day of service. I don't need your day of service because the day of service actually makes you feel better because that's still not helping my kids learn how to read. They still can't read. Now you feel good. You have a nice photo op that you have in your annual meeting to say, and we donated 25 hours towards this school and we gave them 1,000. Keep your money. Find somebody who's going to come to the meeting and ask the Reuben Harpo question, how are the children? Because we know that we have now had, as a lifelong Milwaukeean, I've seen generations of young people where we've said, well, we've got to do something about the kids. And now those kids are grandparents in some cases. They're literally grandparents. We have to make sure, this is real simple. When I was down in Georgia, they love Georgia Bulldog football. And so this always, I'll use a football analogy here. This comes down to blocking and tackling. And the team that can just tackle somebody cleanly and block cleanly, they typically win games. The people who kind of, you see what your professional team is doing. They can't block anybody. So the Packers can't block anybody. Now I need Mr. Wallace to give us more deeper analysis on why that's happening, but we'll get to that later. Friends, we need you to hold school systems accountable on how the children are doing. Please remember Reuben, because we're losing our elders. And I would just ask you to remember that elder question, how are the children? You know the children aren't doing well, so just hold us accountable by just showing up. That's all we need.
Thank you much.
Yep.
Appreciate it.